I'm Dave Curry, Executive Director of the Binghamton Regional Sustainability Coalition. Thank you for the opportunity to share with you this introduction to our exciting Retail Food Co-op project. And thank you for your interest and your commitment to Binghamton. This presentation will last about 25 minutes, so let's begin. Yes, this is all about cooperation. So what is it? These two in the slide are feeling a little peckish, but there's only one way they're going to achieve their aim. Cooperation is described simply as working together to achieve common interests. We all know it when we see it, and given an atmosphere of community reciprocity, one-off cooperation is not that complicated. Here, a Canadian farming community comes together for a barn raising around 1900. On the other hand, a co-op, short for cooperative association or cooperative society, is a structure for ongoing cooperative economic activity. And I'm quoting here from the International Cooperative Association. Their definition is a little bit more complicated. A cooperative is an autonomous association of persons united voluntarily to meet their common economic, social, and cultural needs and aspirations through a jointly owned and democratically controlled enterprise. Whew. So let's go back a little bit and see how cooperatives started. The impetus for modern co-ops began among the flannel weavers of Rochdale, England in 1844 and was sparked by the Enclosures Act, passed in the early 19th century by a parliament elected almost entirely by wealthy landowners. The acts nearly eliminated common land from the English countryside, depriving the poor of the means to eke out a meager existence. And so the rural poor moved en masse to the cities to work in factories. Wages were low and prices high, in part due to the Corn Laws, which imposed high taxes on imported grain in order to keep landowners' profits high. And many shopkeepers increased their profits further by using adulterated ingredients in bread, like arsenic. The Chartist Movement rose up to campaign for electoral reform and was brutally suppressed. This picture shows the Peterloo Massacre, which occurred when demonstrators for electoral reform converged in Manchester, England that is, from all over Lancashire, including Rochdale. Dozens were killed and hundreds wounded. After Parliament refused to respond to demonstrations, petitions, strikes, and even the threat of armed uprisings, many Chartists concluded that the only hope was to collectively buy land and organize their own farms and factories, etc. Needless to say, none of these schemes were successful either. This slide is a proposal for the unbuilt town of Charterville. A small group of 28 Chartists in Rochdale decided to start on a smaller scale by opening their own food store, because they hadn't the money to buy land. This was the space they rented in a warehouse on Toad Lane. They bought 6 sacks of flour, 1 sack of oatmeal, 56 pounds of sugar, 25 pounds of butter, and 2 dozen candles, and opened for business. By the way, the candles weren't for sale. The gas company refused to provide them with service. But don't worry, we've come a long way, and I'm pretty sure Nice Egg will be somewhat kinder to us. But you might say it worked out pretty well. Here's a wing they added to the store about 20 years later. The small group in Rochdale succeeded and clearly found a way to get around the enormous obstacles they faced to provide a service that was decidedly needed. The Rochdale Co-op's success was partly due to having a clear set of principles that ensured that it was not only a stable organization, but also had the resources to expand, serving more members and providing more products to current members. These principles were easily reproducible in other British cities. This picture shows all the co-op stores and other facilities in the town of Kettering. At the peak of the movement, just before the Second World War, about a third of the British population belonged to co-ops that provided a wide range of services. And the co-ops themselves formed co-ops, further strengthening the movement as a whole. This is an early logo of the Cooperative Wholesale Society. Today, the world's largest consumer cooperative is the Cooperative Group in the UK with over 4.5 million members and 123,000 employees. In the early formative years, cooperatives, which were committed to the welfare of their members, supplied them with products like these. Note the emphasis on purity. There's no arsenic in this bread. This commitment to wholesome products carries forward to this day. The first American co-ops on the Rochdale model were formed in Philadelphia and in Lawrence, Massachusetts in 1862. But most 19th and early 20th century co-ops in the United States were formed as associations of producers to sell rather than of consumers to buy. This is a cooperative creamery in Minnesota. But by the early 20th century, and especially during the Great Depression, consumer co-ops like this one in Hanover, New Hampshire, were formed in great numbers. The Hanover Co-op is one of the larger co-ops of its kind and has expanded into automotive services. Now that's not a bad idea. A new generation of co-operators in the 1960s and 70s sought to provide access to products that weren't available in conventional grocery stores. These second-wave co-ops also often had close ties to the New Left and counterculture. This is Mariposa in Philadelphia, which was started by a Quaker community. The store was so small that it could only accommodate one shopper at a time. Members of the community would be issued keys to the store, would enter at will, mark their purchases in a ledger, and receive a monthly bill for their purchases. The Rochdale principles, slightly updated, continue to define the co-op structure of business across the world today. The principles of the cooperative movement are voluntary and open membership, democratic member control, member economic participation, autonomy and independence, education, training and information, cooperation among cooperatives, and concern for the community. So let's recap and summarize what we've learned so far. What are co-ops good for? Co-ops can provide members with goods or services they couldn't afford individually, provide members with goods or services that are not locally available from other sources, provide members and their communities with more control over their own lives. Plus, they create jobs and they create shareholders. What does a co-op need to succeed? Like the Rochdale Co-op of yore, sound principles spawn success, and interestingly, co-ops tend to be more resilient than most startup enterprises. At a minimum, co-ops will need a democratic structure and clear decision-making procedure, clear divisions of responsibility, accountability of a board, officers, and paid staff to their members, and the most successful co-ops fill a strong, previously unmet need, have a strong base in the community, work closely with other co-ops in the area or sector. Cooperative grocery stores, a type of consumer co-op based on the Rochdale model, exist throughout the world, and as you can see, there are many other types: consumer, worker, credit unions, housing, producer, distributor. For example, Best Western is actually a cooperative. REI, the sports equipment retailer, is a co-op. Lega Co-op in Italy employs over 400,000 people and has 7.7 million members. Migros is the largest supermarket chain in Switzerland and has 2 million members. Credit unions are cooperatives, and one of the largest worker cooperatives in the world is Mondragon. Founded in the town of Mondragon in 1956, the Mondragon Cooperative is the 7th largest company in Spain and the leading business group in the Basque Country. At the end of 2008, it was providing employment for 92,773 people, working in 256 companies in finance, industry, retail, and knowledge, generating $22.8 billion in revenues. The federated cooperatives of Mondragon are owned by their worker members, and power is based on the principle of one person, one vote. Now, this concludes the introduction to co-ops. Now, a few words about BRSC, the Binghamton Regional Sustainability Coalition. BRSC was founded in 2008. We meet on the fourth Thursday of the month at the Broome County Library, though I checked the website to make sure we're meeting in any particular month. We have an office in buildings that belong to the Redeemer Lutheran Church on Main Street in Binghamton, and we welcome new members and volunteers and hope you will join us on our mission to build local living communities. What is sustainability? Definitions of sustainability refer to the three pillars of social, environmental, and economic stability. This view, expressed as an illustration using three overlapping ellipses, indicates that the three pillars of sustainability are not mutually exclusive, but can be mutually reinforcing. When we are working on projects that fall into the overlapping of all three circles, we know we are going in the right direction. The outcomes that are sought are a society that is more livable, or bearable in this example, more viable and more sustainable, meaning enduring and resilient. And given recent weather, financial, pandemic, and other environmental crises, you might find this comforting. This slide illustrates the major fields of work for BRSC, all of which result in building local living communities. We believe that the focus needs to be on community self-reliance and both individual and collective health and wealth, common health and common wealth. This approach seeks to build local stakeholders, businesses, and individuals, and we hope you will join us in this exciting and important work. Based on the Evergreen Cooperatives model in Cleveland, which itself is based on the Mondragon Federation of Co-ops, BRSC intends to build relationships with key anchor institutions by tailoring projects to their needs where they intersect with our vision. We will look to establish a $2 million to $5 million community development fund to grow stakeholder enterprises that will build community wealth. Our goal is 500 to 2,000 jobs and 10 to 20 million of stakeholder equity over 10 years. Now, let's get down to our immediate task. Let's build a co-op together. BRSC's role is to incubate and nurture and grow this project, and together with the West Side Assembly and the First Ward Neighborhood Assembly and you, we're going to bring a revolution to our community. And yes, we're going to do some powerful community building in the process. Let's not just build a co-op, let's build a community. For a few minutes, I'd like to use the Honest Weight Food Co-op in Albany as an example of how a co-op is administered and works. Member benefits at the Honest Weight. You get to purchase whole foods at reasonable prices. You learn about health and nutrition through newsletter articles, classes, and mutual exchange. You support local and small-scale farming, encourage sound ecological practices, attend all co-op meetings, receive a discount on all purchases. Working members have the right to vote at membership meetings, run for the board, and serve on committees. Shareholder benefits. In a co-op, you earn discounts based on whether you are an owner in good standing, a shareholder, and whether you wish to contribute some work hours. Your share is returned to you when you ask for it, for example, when you move away. The co-op may elect to pay out dividends, limited to a maximum of 6%. Shares cannot be sold to others. One share, one vote, one membership. At the Honest Weight, as the slide illustrates, the benefits work this way for shareholders. A 2% discount for non-working shareholders who are up to date with their share payments, a 10% discount for monthly shareholders who work 3 hours a month, 26% for weekly shareholders who work 3 hours a week, and 5% for non-working shareholders who are senior citizens which they consider 65 years old and over. So how do you become a shareholder of Honest Weight? Well, their shares sell for $100 payment in full. That's one way. Or, as you can see, the terms can be quite reasonable. You can have a $10 deposit and pay $8.45 a month for 11 months, $15 deposit, $15.69 every 6 months for 3 years, and so on. You can go on to the 5-year payment plan. It's not an impediment to becoming a shareholder or a member. Rather, it's a way to connect you to the co-op through ownership, and they try to make it as easy as possible. This slide shows how Honest Weight grew. So in 1976, it started as a food buying club in one of the members' basements. It was about 200 square feet. The following year, they had their first store, 2,000 square feet, and about 200 members. In 1979, they grew to 400 members. By 1986, they had 300,000 in sales. By 1995, they expanded again to a 6,000 square foot store with $2.5 million in annual sales. By 1997, they had 2,253 members. In 2000, they moved again, or expanded again, I should say, to an 8,000 square foot store with $5 million in sales. 2003, 3,667 members. 2009, 6,000 members and $12.5 million in sales. Pretty impressive. So, possibilities for our co-op. How are we going to put this project together? The first bullet item mentions Healthy Foods, Healthy Communities Fund. This is a New York State fund with $30 million in it to put markets in underserved communities, which is exactly what we want to do on the West Side in Binghamton. We have strong support from the City of Binghamton and the West Side Assembly. We have clear need and a growing demand. We're part of an integrated strategy to develop a local food-based economy. And we want to create this neighborhood grocery network. And this is a network that puts small displays in local grocery stores, the mom and pops and convenience stores. And it's an exciting extension that we think would make the grant much stronger. The idea in this slide is that this isn't a static project and a one-off, but rather it's an ongoing movement. We want to grow this co-op and also use the capacity we've built to incubate other complementary products. So if we start on the slide at the producers co-op, and I'm just going to go around, one of the primary purposes of establishing a retail co-op is to provide an outlet for local products. So maybe we could have a co-op food processing facility, a commercial kitchen, a grocery network. We've talked about that. We could have a chain of co-ops. It doesn't have to be one store in one neighborhood. We could expand that over time. A co-op bakery that would serve its customers and the co-ops. A central commissary, an area where we would warehouse all of the incoming inventory. And the favorite one is a co-op microbrewery. Now, of course, this could take years to develop, but the idea is that we're building a cooperative movement here. And this just shows some of the possibilities. So why? What are the benefits of the cooperative form and a retail food co-op in particular? Well, there are 3 areas where we think there are specific benefits. Health, first of all. Food access, wholesome foods, and fresh foods. Research is showing that people will switch to healthier choices if they are available. In terms of economics, there are jobs, the agronomy, meaning the local food economy, and there's a multiplier effect. So we can't really predict the job effect. Is it 5? Is it 10? Is it 20 people more? What is it over 10 years? We don't know, but certainly it produces jobs. In terms of the agronomy, we're talking about providing local foods from local producers and this multiplier effect. So studies have shown that spending money at locally owned stores has a greater impact on the local economy than it would if you were spending money at a box store or a chain store. So the famous one is a study in Austin, Texas, and it went on to demonstrate that $100 spent at a Borders bookstore would circulate $13 in the Austin economy, but $100 spent at a local bookstore would circulate $45, or roughly had 3 times as much local impact. That's part of the cornerstone of BRSC's economic development policies and ambitions for our community, is to increase the multiplier effect. So how do we start the co-op? Well, there are 9 simple steps, and these are not sequential steps. In fact, we would want to be advancing on multiple fronts in tandem. The first one is gather background, get information, identify needs, convene a core group of interested individuals. Organize, hold a meeting of potential members to discuss needs and options, select a steering committee to coordinate the group. Third, research feasibility, survey potential members and conduct market research, prepare a feasibility study. 4, review findings and incorporate, prepare and approve articles of incorporation and bylaws, report on the results of the feasibility study, elect a board of directors, and begin the initial member fundraising. Number 5, recruit members. Hold meetings and prepare materials describing the co-op, establish member investment options, and conduct a member equity drive. Number 6, planning and financing. Prepare a detailed business plan and research financing options, identify possible locations, and negotiate lease arrangements. Number 7, secure financing. Finalize all the outside financing sources and terms. Number 8, begin operations. Hire a manager, locate store fixtures and equipment, finalize layout, establish accounts with suppliers, and set up the store. And number 9, the 9th step is to open the doors. Ta-da! And yes, now there's the sweet music. Modestly put, we want to try and emulate the Basques of northern Spain and create a similar federation of cooperatives here in Binghamton. It has become abundantly clear that the financial and fiscal systems that recently collapsed, causing a spectacular $7 trillion decline in personal wealth, is not particularly concerned with helping communities rebuild and survive. It is time to empower ourselves and to rebuild our local economies and find ways to apply capital to projects that produce goods and services and benefits that will remain in our community, not be leaked out, but to remain here as powerful economic multipliers. Let us focus on Main Street and build a local living economy, building the Commonwealth. Less Wall Street, more Main Street. Yeah, baby, that's what this slide is about. This train is moving. It's leaving the station. Let's go. Buy a share in Binghamton. What do we have in place? Well, we have a community development partnership. We're working with the Binghamton Housing Authority Credit Union and Alternatives. These are special community development financial institutions, CDFIs they're called. And we have this vision of a sustainability center with a financial services center in a food co-op. We have this Healthy Foods, Healthy Communities, New York State Public-Private Partnership Fund to put markets in underserved communities. We have a strong support network, and we have you, and you're enthusiastic, aren't you? What do we need to get started? We need you to sign up. We need the organizing meeting. We need food and music. We need more partners to get involved. We need help and support. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. The famous quote by Margaret Mead. Finally, I'd like to conclude with a brief story. Osceola McCarty was a washerwoman from Hattiesburg, Mississippi, who saved the dollars she made taking in laundry and ironing. On July 15, 1995, she endowed the University of Southern Mississippi with a $150,000 scholarship fund. And when she established the trust, she said to a New York Times reporter, "There's a lot of talk about self-esteem these days. It seems pretty basic to me. If you want to feel proud of yourself, you've got to do things you can be proud of. Feelings follow actions." She said, "I can't do everything, but I can do something to help somebody. And what I can do, I will do." So please read this last line with me. I can't do everything, but I can do something to help somebody. And what I can do, I will do. If Ms. McCarty can do it, so can we. So let's hear it for Binghamton. We can do and we will do. Thank you. For more information, visit BRSC at www.binghamtonsustainability.org or send us an email at info@binghamtonsustainability.org. We at BRSC look forward to your involvement in our food co-op project. Thank you.